It was a warm evening in Rome, the kind that wraps the city in an amber glow, as I sat at my designated spot at my mother-in-law's birthday dinner. Suddenly, I realized my seat was missing. A quick glance around revealed a familiar scene. The table was set, the family was laughing, and my husband was seated comfortably, chuckling softly. "Oops," he said with a shrug, "guess we miscounted." His words, light and casual, seemed to echo in my ears, but my stomach tightened. I looked around at the gathered family, eyes bright with amusement, some amused, others dismissive, and I felt a strange calm settle over me. Without a word, I stood up. I caught the eye of the maitre d', calmly approached him, and with quiet resolve, cancelled the event entirely. I watched as the server's expression faltered, and I felt a shiver of satisfaction ripple through me. My face was composed, but inside, my heart was pounding fiercely, yet I refused to let it show. 30 minutes later, as the family realized the event was abruptly cancelled, venues, catering, everything, they looked as if they'd seen a ghost. Their faces turned ghostly white, and whispers erupted across the room. I heard someone gasp, but I held my ground, my voice steady as I turned and walked away from the table that had no seat for me. The humiliation burned like fire through my veins, but I refused to give them the satisfaction of seeing me break. As I stepped outside into the Roman night, I didn't shed a tear. Instead, an eerie calm washed over me. I pulled out my phone and opened the event management app one had built my career on. I had 30 minutes before they'd realize what I was doing, that I was canceling the entire event from afar. That was more than enough time. Before I pressed confirm, I took a deep breath and silently thanked myself. I wanted to remind everyone, myself, that my worth wasn't defined by their approval or their superficial celebrations. Sometimes, the most powerful moments come when we finally recognize our own strength. Let me introduce myself. My name is Anna Morgan. 5 years ago, I was just Anna Morgan, the founder of Elite Affairs, Boston's most sought-after event planning company. I had built my reputation from the ground up, working tirelessly through business school, creating flawless galas, corporate gatherings, and elegant society weddings. My fingerprints were everywhere in Boston's high society, and my reputation for discretion, attention to detail, and the impossible had made me the go-to planner among the city's elite. It was at a charity event for Boston Children's Hospital, organized by my company, that I first met Sean Caldwell. Tall, with perfectly coiffed dark hair and a smile that crinkled the corners of his eyes, Sean exuded confidence and ease. He was a man born into privilege, yet, there was something genuine in his interest in my work that drew me in. "You're the wizard behind this transformation," he said, gesturing to the ballroom of the Four Seasons. "My mother's trying to decide who to hire for her charity event next month. I think I just found her answer." That moment marked the beginning of a new chapter, one that would intertwine my life with the Caldwell families, Boston aristocracy with old money rooted in shipping and railroads. Their wealth didn't flaunt itself, it was in the subtle quality of everything they owned, in the way they navigated their world with effortless grace. Our romance blossomed 6 months after I began working for the family. Sean pursued me with the same determination he poured into his work at the family's investment firm. But beneath the surface, there were warning signs, glances exchanged with his mother, Eleanor, full of disapproval, casual comments about my humble beginnings, the surprise in people's voices when they learned I was dating a Caldwell. During our first dinner as a couple, Eleanor had said, "Self-made success is so American," her smile not quite reaching her eyes. I ignored these signs because I was falling in love with Sean. He seemed different, more open-minded, less concerned with lineage and status. When he proposed 11 months after our first date, I said yes, despite a nagging feeling that I was stepping into a world that might never truly accept me. Our wedding was the social event of the season. I poured my heart into planning it myself, unable to trust another with my own wedding. Eleanor had opinions about every detail. The venue wasn't traditional enough, the menu was too daring, the guest list was missing key social names. I compromised when I could but held firm where it mattered. Sean played the peacemaker, but I noticed he rarely contradicted his mother directly. After the wedding, the subtle undermining turned more systematic. Despite using my company for their events, the Caldwells constantly questioned my decisions, made last-minute changes, and took credit for my ideas. At family gatherings, my opinions were dismissed or ignored. Eleanor would pat my hand condescendingly and say, "Anna has such a good eye for these things," as if I was merely a charming hobbyist. Sean never defended me. He'd shrug and say, "That's just how she is," but inside, I knew it was more complicated. The years that followed were a slow erosion of confidence and belonging. The opportunity to plan Eleanor's 70th birthday in Rome should have been my crowning achievement, a week-long celebration culminating in a dinner at a Michelin-starred restaurant overlooking the Colosseum. I poured every ounce of my expertise into creating a flawless event, leveraging all my contacts and resources. But as I delved into the planning, cracks in the Caldwells' veneer appeared. Payments for venues were delayed. Vendors called asking about overdue invoices. When I brought this up with Sean, he brushed it off, claiming the family accountant was cautious with international transfers. Yet, I saw the bank statements left open on his laptop, investments gone awry, properties mortgaged to the limit, lines of credit maxed out. The Caldwell fortune was shrinking fast. I kept pushing forward, using my company's credit line to secure deposits, telling myself it was temporary. That Sean would explain everything once the celebration was over. I believed in him, in us. Then, the morning of our flight to Rome, everything changed. Sean was in the shower when his phone pinged. I usually respected his privacy, but something compelled me to glance at his screen. The message preview from Vanessa Hughes, his college girlfriend, was unmistakable. "Can't wait to see you in Rome. Have you told her yet?" My heart seized. Without thinking, I opened the message thread. My hands trembled as I read the words that confirmed what I'd feared, his past, his secrets, the life I was about to step into. That night in Rome, amid the grandeur and the looming shadow of betrayal, I chose myself. When I realized I was invisible to the family, I took back my power. I canceled the event, not out of spite, but as a declaration, I am enough. My worth isn't measured by their approval or their superficial celebrations. As I walked away from the dinner that night, I felt a quiet strength inside, a resolve to reclaim my dignity, to forge a new path rooted in self-respect. I may have been betrayed, misunderstood, and dismissed, but I was also resilient. And that, I knew, was the true measure of success. This is just one chapter in my story, a story about resilience, self-discovery, and the courage to stand tall even when the world tries to push you down. If you've ever felt like an outsider, if you've ever questioned your worth, I hope my journey resonates with you. If you'd like to follow along as I continue to reclaim my life and redefine my happiness, hit subscribe. Let's walk this path of unexpected strength, together. My name is Anna Morgan. 5 years ago, I was a proud Boston event planner, building a career on talent and integrity. Today, I'm learning that sometimes, the greatest victories come when we find the courage to walk away from illusions and embrace our true worth. The messages had gone back months, plans meticulously laid, futures discussed in secret, and yes, a baby was on the way. 4 months from now, I was supposed to become a mother. I had taken screenshots of the conversations, forwarded them to myself for safekeeping, and then, with a trembling hand, deleted the evidence from Sean's phone. I didn't want to leave a trace, not yet. Not until I was ready. I packed my bags with a calm that belied the chaos swirling inside me. I plastered on a smile, the kind that hides pain, and boarded the flight to Rome, shaking with a mixture of resolve and dread, knowing full well what awaited me. Sean, his family, the city of my dreams, all converged into this moment where I had to make a choice. This was the moment I had prepared for, the moment I had silently braced myself for. I wouldn't confront Sean before dinner. No. I would let events unfold naturally, observe, listen, and be ready. I was determined not to be caught off guard again. Rome's sunset cast a golden glow over the skyline as our plane touched down at Fusino Airport, and I watched the city wake beneath the deepening hues of amber and red. I had arranged for a private convoy, luxury black Mercedes waiting at the terminal to ferry the Caldwell entourage, Sean's parents, Eleanor and Richard, his sister Melissa with her husband Grant, his brother Thomas with his wife Claire, and their 2 sets of aunts and uncles. This was to be a majestic arrival, a display of wealth and power. But as the sleek vehicles pulled up, I saw Eleanor step off the plane, her face pinched with disapproval. "I thought I specified the hotel cars, Anna," she said, her tone clipped. "These seem rather generic." I bit my tongue, reminding myself of the countless times I'd endured her dismissiveness. "They're from Lux Transport," I offered, trying to keep my voice even. "They service most of the diplomats in Rome. It's reliable." But her eyes were already drifting elsewhere, her lips pressed into a thin line as she whispered something to Richard, their heads bent together in that conspiratorial way that always excluded me. I knew I was invisible to them in that moment. I clenched my fists, feeling a surge of quiet anger, but kept my face composed. The hotel, the De Russi, welcomed us with the lavishness I had meticulously arranged, *** champagne flowed in the private lounge, and bellhops whisked away our luggage. I had spent months selecting the perfect suites, views overlooking the Spanish Steps, fresh flowers in every room, personalized welcome baskets brimming with Italian delicacies, and a carefully crafted schedule for each family member. I had poured my heart into this was my masterpiece. Yet, as we entered the suite, Sean's phone buzzed. He stepped onto the terrace, speaking in hushed tones. I asked, when he returned, "When do you think we'll be ready for dinner?" I inquired softly. "Just some investment issues," he replied, not meeting my eyes, brushing off concerns I hadn't voiced aloud. The first clear sign of my exclusion appeared at dinner, an event I'd personally planned at a charming trattoria in Trastevere. I had envisioned us sharing laughter, enjoying the authentic Italian atmosphere. Instead, the seating arrangement had been shifted at the last moment. I found myself isolated at the far end of the table, separated from Sean by his cousin and aunt. Inside jokes flew across the table, stories of past family trips to Italy I'd been deliberately excluded from. When I tried to join the conversation about the week's planned activities, Melissa interrupted with a dismissive smile. "Oh, Anna, we've actually decided to do some family shopping tomorrow instead of the Vatican tour." I blinked, caught off guard. "Family shopping?" "Yes," Eleanor said smoothly, as if discussing simple errands. "You know, just some tradition. We figured you might be bored. Why don't you use the time to check on the birthday arrangements? That's your expertise, after all." The pattern persisted over the next few days. I would find Sean already gone, leaving behind a hastily scribbled note about meeting his father for breakfast. The family would disappear for hours, their plans whispered in corners I wasn't allowed to join. I overheard snippets of conversations, secret exchanges, side glances, the subtle but deliberate efforts to keep me out of the loop. Then, the moment I dreaded arrived. I caught wind of a rearranged dinner reservation, mysteriously moved to accommodate old friends who'd just arrived in Rome. I watched as their eyes flicked my way, curious, assessing, like I was an outsider in my own life. On the third morning, opportunity presented itself. Sean hurried out to meet his brother, leaving his briefcase unattended. I discreetly opened it. Inside, I found the horrifying truth. Drafts of separation papers, prepared by the Caldwell family's attorney, dated 2 months earlier. I took screenshots, my hands trembling. There it was, a calculated plan for our divorce, designed to be announced at Eleanor's birthday dinner. A script, a premeditated public declaration, an orchestrated exit for Sean, framed as a mutual decision, but clearly meant to minimize social embarrassment for the Caldwells. I stared at the black and white images of plans, of a future I would never have. My heart shattered anew. Eleanor's birthday was supposed to be a celebration, but I knew it was also my funeral ***. I channeled my fury into methodical documentation. Every day, I found new evidence, bank statements showing massive withdrawals to offshore accounts, emails discussing liquidation of assets, handwritten notes from Eleanor to Sean. Once this unpleasantness with Anna is behind us, Vanessa will be welcomed back properly. I kept my mask in place, overseeing every detail of the birthday celebration, all while gathering digital breadcrumbs of the Caldwell's financial house of cards. When anyone asked why I seemed distracted, I blamed last-minute event details. But in truth, I was building my arsenal, my silent rebellion. The morning of Eleanor's birthday dawned bright and clear, ****. I woke early, slipping out of Sean's bed without disturbing him. My schedule was packed, an exclusive tour of the Borghese Gallery, lunch at a vineyard outside the city, and then back to the hotel to prepare for the grand dinner. As the event planner, I knew I had to arrive early, ensure everything was perfect. In the hotel's business center, I was printing final confirmations when I overheard Eleanor's voice from the adjacent concierge desk. Her tone was imperious, commanding. "There will be 12 seats, not 13, she instructed someone on the phone. "I don't care what the reservation says. The seating chart I sent is final. And no, my son's wife will not be attending the dinner. It's a family matter, you understand. No questions." My blood ran cold. The missing seat wasn't an oversight or last-minute change. It was the centerpiece of their plan, a cruel, calculated humiliation designed to make my exit look like my choice, rather than their orchestration. I closed my laptop, gathered my papers, and with measured steps, headed toward the elevator. Inside, I pulled out my phone and began making a call, my mind already racing, my heart pounding with a mixture of pain and resolve. This was the moment I had prepared for. I was ready. I arrived at Aroma Restaurant nearly an hour before the rest of the guests, as any dedicated event planner would. The rooftop venue offered a breathtaking, panoramic view of the Colosseum, its ancient stone walls glowing golden in the late afternoon sun. I moved deliberately around the terrace, inspecting every last detail, the hand-lettered place cards resting atop crisp white linens, the delicate arrangement of Eleanor's favorite white peonies and ivory roses, the crystal flutes of champagne chilling in a silver bucket. The 7-course tasting menu was confirmed, and the 3-tiered birthday cake stood like a silent promise of celebration, each layer a testament to Italian craftsmanship. "Is everything to your satisfaction, Senora Caldwell?" Marco, the maitre d', asked, wiping his hands on a pristine towel. "Perfect," I replied, though inside I felt a gentle flutter of nerves. I knew this would be the last event I'd ever plan for the Caldwells. Yet my professional pride demanded nothing less than absolute excellence. Back in my hotel room, I slipped into the midnight blue Valentino gown I'd bought specifically for this evening. Its fabric hugged me in just the right way, lending confidence to my shoulders. As I applied my makeup with steady hands, I studied my reflection. 5 years of striving and stretching to fit into their world had left its marks, not in scars of defeat, but in the quiet strength that now glimmered in my eyes. Downstairs in the lobby, the Caldwell family gathered, each of them draped in the latest couture. Eleanor appeared first in inventive Chanel, her diamond necklace catching the chandelier's glow. Sean followed close behind, razor-sharp in a tailored suit. His eyes flickered as he saw me, whether in surprise or calculation, I could not tell. "Anna, darling, you look lovely," Eleanor cooed, planting a perfumed kiss on my cheek. "Thank you," I said with a polite smile, though inside I braced myself. We were all waiting for the cars. The drive to the restaurant was short, filled with light chatter about activities they'd already shared without me. In the elevator to the rooftop, Sean placed his hand at the small of my back, a gesture once intimate, now feeling staged for the benefit of the attendant. When the doors slid open, the terrace glimmered under the first stars. Lanterns hung from wrought iron arches, casting warm pools of light on the polished marble floor. Beyond us, the Colosseum loomed, majestic and eternal, a silent witness to empires rising and falling. Eleanor entered, greeted by enthusiastic applause from the waiting family. They moved as if choreographed, Richard tucking his tie, Melissa smoothing her skirt, Thomas adjusting his cufflinks. One by one they took their seats at the large round table I'd specified, a table that could have seated 13. I trailed behind Sean, who strode directly to his place beside his mother. I approached the spot where my place card should have been. Only, there was nothing. No chair, no settings, no acknowledgement of my existence. A hush fell over me. The table's gleaming surface reflected their curious faces, all avoiding my eyes. Marco and his staff exchanged uneasy glances, but remained silent. "Is something wrong?" Eleanor's voice rang out, innocent and loud. "There seems to be a mistake." My voice was steadier than I felt inside. "My place setting is missing." They all reacted exactly as they had planned, furrowed brows, half-sympathetic glances, the practiced pause before a casual explanation. "That's odd," Melissa murmured, leaning forward. "Did we miscount?" Richard cleared his throat. "Perhaps a miscommunication with the restaurant?" Sean's laugh was soft, as if sharing an inside joke. "Oops, guess we miscounted." The family laughed along, gentle amusement in their eyes. In that moment, the entire tableau snapped into perfect clarity. The careful orchestration, the public stage set for my humiliation, the way they'd planned to write me off as the unstable wife who couldn't stand the grandeur of Caldwell life. I looked at each face around the table. Eleanor beamed, triumphant behind her birthday smile. Richard's discomfort flickered and faded. Melissa and Thomas watched, enjoying the spectacle. Their spouses glanced away, torn between loyalty and shame. And Sean, my husband, watched me with the measured detachment of a scientist observing an experiment. I could have called out the deceit, demanded my chair, created a scene that would echo through their family folklore for generations. But I refused to play the part they'd written for me. Instead, I straightened my spine, lifted my chin. It became clear, in that moment of silence punctuated only by the distant clink of cutlery, that I would see this through. 28 minutes after walking out of the restaurant, I finished my espresso, paid the bill, and steeled myself for the final act. I smoothed the folds of my midnight blue Valentino gown and walked back across the street, determined to witness the moment when Eleanor's perfect birthday celebration unraveled completely. Entering Aroma through the service entrance, a path I had mapped out during my earlier inspection, I found Marco waiting. His brow was furrowed with concern under the soft kitchen light. "Senora Caldwell, are you certain about this?" "It is highly unusual," he whispered. "I'm absolutely certain," I replied, pressing a sealed envelope into his hand. "Inside is proof of the payment reversals and cancellation of my company's guarantee. To continue, the Caldwells will need a new method of payment." Marco nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. In our world of high-stakes events, reputations hinge on seamless transactions, and on trust. We had partnered before, Boston clients visiting Rome, gala dinners under the stars. Though today's request felt strange to him, professional courtesy, and the favors I had called in, would ensure his cooperation. "Text me in 5 minutes," I said. "I'd like to watch from somewhere discreet." He led me to a small alcove beside the kitchen door, perfectly positioned to overlook the Caldwell table. There, under the glow of lanterns, the family was mid-toast, champagne flutes raised, faces radiant with pride. The imported Oster caviar, Eleanor's sole culinary indulgence, lay on porcelain spoons, glistening like black pearls. I watched, heart pounding, as Marco slipped away. My phone buzzed, a message from Sean. "Anna, where are you? Stop being childish and come back." Another followed almost instantly, "Mother is upset. You're embarrassing yourself." I ignored them both, instead tapping out a quick note to Carmen at Villa Borza, their next stop in Tuscany. The booking was cancelled, deposits reversed, and the staff's grateful reply arrived moments later. My tip would be refunded to my business account. My phone vibrated again, a cascade of texts from Sean. "The hotel just called. Our reservation is cancelled. What are you doing? Anna, this is ridiculous. Call me immediately. This isn't funny. Fix it now." Calmly, I texted Marco, "You may proceed." From my vantage point, I watched him approach the table with 2 uniformed staff. He knelt beside Richard, who sat at the head of the table. Whispering quietly, Marco tapped at his tablet. Richard's polite interest melted into confusion, then alarm. He rummaged through his wallet, fishing out a credit card, but Marco shook his head, showing him the screen. One by one, the guests looked up. Eleanor's fork clattered against her plate. Melissa and Thomas leaned forward, whispering to each other. Others pulled out their phones, their expressions shifting from casual pleasure to open disbelief. And Sean, he sat frozen, the color draining from his face as he read my text aloud beneath his breath. All deposits have been returned to my company account. All arrangements cancelled. Your family's financial issues are about to become very public. Enjoy your caviar. In the quiet chaos that followed, I heard a strangled gasp from Eleanor, a harsh whisper from Melissa, and the scrape of a chair as Sean stood so abruptly that the legs scratched the marble floor. His phone rang, now a direct call. I declined and watched him retreat toward the kitchen doorway, desperate to reach me. When he tried again, I answered. His voice trembled with fury and panic. "What the hell do you think you're doing?" he hissed. "Seems I'm not family," I repeated, my voice steady. "So I'm not responsible for your celebrations. Do you know how humiliating this is? For my mother, for all of us?" "I know exactly how humiliating," I said. "That's why I did it." His tone softened, desperation creeping in. "We need to talk. I can explain about Vanessa, about everything." "The problem," I replied, "is that I've seen the financial statements. I've seen the emails. I know the Caldwell empire is crumbling, and that you've been hiding assets offshore. I know about the text messages from Vanessa. I know exactly what you planned tonight." A sharp intake of breath confirmed my suspicions. He had never imagined I would discover, and act on, every secret. I watched, heart pounding, as the restaurant manager, now backed by 2 staff, addressed the entire table. A hush fell over the other diners, everyone stared. Eleanor's regal posture trembled. Melissa's hand flew to her diamond necklace, clutching it like a lifeline. Thomas's phone screen glowed as he tried to verify Marco's announcement. And Sean, pale, defeated, stood with shoulders hunched, as though the weight of their world had collapsed around him. Sean's voice crackled through the line. "Anna, please." "I understand perfectly," I said, stepping out of the alcove. Every eye turned to me, angry, fearful, disbelieving. Eleanor rose, eyes blazing. "How dare you ruin my birthday," she shouted. I offered a small, serene smile. "I learned from the best, Eleanor." Her expression faltered. In that moment, I saw the true cost of their cruelty, not mine, but theirs. For I had traded their illusions of control for something far more precious, my own freedom, my own power, and the knowledge that, at last, I belonged to myself. I stepped away from the table, the soft click of my heels against the marble floor sounding impossibly loud in my ears. 12 pairs of eyes, some blazing with anger, others clouded with fear, followed my every move. Eleanor rose to her full height, her voice trembling with fury. "How dare you ruin my birthday," she spat, her diamonds catching the lantern light like flashing warning signs. I paused, feeling a strange calm settle over me. My chest rose and fell with measured breaths as I met her gaze. "I learned from the best, Eleanor," I said softly. "Isn't this exactly what you planned for me? A public humiliation, an orchestrated exit? The only difference is, I changed the ending." Richard bristled beside her. "This is outrageous, you had no right." "I had every right," I replied. Every contract, every reservation, every arrangement was under my name or my company's name. I simply adjusted the plans. Melissa's lips curled in contempt. "You'll regret this. When Sean divorces you, you'll get nothing." "That's where you're wrong," I said, turning my attention to Sean. "I have copies of everything, the offshore accounts, the hidden assets, the fraudulent business dealings. I'm sure the press will find it all fascinating." Their faces drained of color as the weight of my words sank in. In that moment, I felt no triumph, only a profound sense of liberation. I stepped out of the restaurant for the last time, leaving behind a family in crisis, their meticulously crafted facade crumbling in real time. The next morning, I boarded a direct flight to Boston, upgrading myself to first class with points I'd earned planning previous Caldwell vacations. From my window seat, I watched Italy fade beneath me, and behind me, I left a storm. Overnight, word had traveled through Rome's hospitality network that the Caldwell's American credit had collapsed. By the time I landed, vendors were demanding upfront payments. The family had resorted to using Eleanor's vintage Bulgari bracelet as collateral for dinner, hardly the way the illustrious American family was expected to behave. My phone buzzed with messages, some threatening legal action, others pleading for mercy. During my layover in London, I sipped Earl Grey in the British Airways lounge while reading their frantic texts. Richard, this is actionable. Our lawyers will be in touch. Melissa, you've made a terrible mistake. Thomas, do you really think you can humiliate our family without consequences? Eleanor, I always knew you were common. This proves it. Sean, first, Dad had a heart episode, was that your intent? Then the Prescotts and Whitmores saw everything. The hotel demands payment for the entire week. And, please, Anna, I need to talk. I forwarded all the financial documents I'd collected to my lawyer with strict instructions, hold until needed. If the Caldwells pursued litigation, I would be ready. Back in Boston, I returned to the brownstone I once shared with Sean. I hired movers to pack only what was unquestionably mine, my clothes, the jewelry I'd bought with my own money, my collection of first editions, and the handful of artworks I'd acquired before our marriage. Wedding gifts and jointly purchased items were left behind, tokens of a life I was determined to leave in the past. 2 days later, the Boston Globe Society pages ran a small item, Investment Group faces inquiry. Beneath the headline, the article noted financial irregularities and an investigation by the Securities Exchange Commission. It wasn't front-page news, but in Boston's tight-knit social circles, it was lightning in a teacup. A week later, Sean appeared at my apartment unannounced. His once polished facade was gone, replaced by genuine desperation. He looked at me with hollow eyes. You need to come home, he pleaded. I opened the door wider and motioned him inside. This has gone far enough, he said, dropping his voice. It's not a negotiation tactic. The SEC is investigating father's accounts, 2 board members have resigned, mother had to cancel her charity gala, 3 major donors pulled out. That sounds like the Caldwell family's problem, I replied, folding my arms. If I go down, you go down with me, he countered. We're still married, your debts are my debts. I allowed myself a small, sad smile. Not when I have proof you deliberately excluded me from every financial decision, hid assets to defraud me in divorce proceedings, and lied about your affair. Sean sank onto my couch, face in his hands. I never wanted it to end like this, he murmured. What did you want? I asked, sitting across from him. He looked up, eyes red-rimmed. I thought you understood. I loved you once. But I was too afraid of my family to be honest. Then why marry me? I said quietly. To use my skills as an event planner, to manage your social calendar, then discard me when I wasn't useful? He closed his eyes. It wasn't like that at first. I don't want your money, Sean. I want my freedom. I want the truth acknowledged. He stood, defeated. Name your price, he whispered. Sign an NDA, hand over the documents, anything. I stood as well, my resolve firm. I don't want your money. The documents stay with my lawyer. The divorce terms are simple, I walk away with what's mine, you with what's yours, and Vanessa and the baby. His voice was barely audible. That's between you and your conscience. I watched him leave, the rain tapping against my window in steady rhythm. Outside, the world moved on, unaware of the Caldwells' unraveling. Inside, I allowed myself a moment to breathe, the rain on the glass, the echo of my own heartbeat, the knowledge that I was, at last, truly free. Over the following weeks, the Boston Globe published a more in-depth exposé on the Caldwell Investment Group. Longtime clients quietly withdrew their portfolios, boards dissolved, Eleanor's gala was rescheduled, and then quietly cancelled a second time. But I was already moving forward. Plans were taking shape for my own company's expansion, a gallery had expressed interest in my first edition collection. A local cafe owner asked me to consult on his upcoming rooftop opening. One rainy morning, nearly a month after that fateful dinner, I stepped onto the polished hardwood floors of my new office, a bright, open loft overlooking the Charles River. As sunlight filtered through the windows, I found myself smiling genuinely for the first time in years. Around me, the artifacts of my independence, my books, my paintings, my carefully negotiated contracts, stood as testament to what I had reclaimed. The past, with all its betrayal and heartbreak, was now behind me. Ahead lay possibility, unbound by anyone's script but my own. And with that, I raised my coffee cup in a silent toast to the woman I had become, and to the story I would yet write. My name appeared in the society pages no longer as Mrs. Caldwell, but as the event planner whose integrity had outshone scandal. Within weeks of our divorce, the Caldwells' attempts to erase me only cemented my reputation. 3 prestigious charity boards to which I had once dedicated countless hours quietly moved me to emeritus status, an honorific nod to past service, rather than the quiet dismissal I once feared. Meanwhile, Vanessa's pregnancy became public. Paparazzi spotted her at her obstetrician's office, her hand resting protectively on a small bump, her engagement ring glinting in the sunlight. The timeline was unmistakable. Her relationship with Sean had resumed long before our marriage unraveled. Boston's high society might turn a blind eye to discreet indiscretions, but this was a brazen violation of their unspoken rules. Yet, to my surprise, my business flourished. Clients who had once viewed me through the tinted lens of privilege, some even pitying my close association with the Caldwells, now sought me out. They admired not just my skill, but my steadfast refusal to be used or discarded. The narrative that circulated wasn't one of a woman scorned, it was the story of a consummate professional who reclaimed her dignity. 6 months later, an invitation arrived that made me smile with genuine amusement, a request to bid on planning Eleanor Caldwell's next charity gala. Pride, it seemed, had finally met desperation. I declined with gracious tact, citing an already brimming calendar. Our divorce concluded quietly that autumn. The Caldwells, hungry to salvage their reputation and finances, accepted the terms without a word of protest. Sean and Vanessa married in a subdued civil ceremony. 2 weeks later, their daughter was born. I sent neither gift nor greeting. 1 year after that night on the rooftop in Rome, I found myself once again beneath the Italian sky. This time on the Amalfi Coast, entrusted with orchestrating a celebrity wedding on a sun-drenched terrace overlooking the turquoise sea. My phone in one hand, a rose flute in the other, I watched my vendors move with practiced precision, florists weaving cascades of jasmine and bougainvillea, the pastry chef piping buttercream roses onto a seaside cake, the string quartet tuning beneath a canopy of lanterns. In that magical moment, as the sun dipped toward the horizon and the sea shimmered like molten sapphire, I realized something unexpected. I was profoundly happy. Not despite the collapse of my marriage, but because of it. The Caldwells had tried to shrink me into an accessory in their grand narrative. Instead, they had inadvertently set me free. In losing the life I thought I wanted, I had discovered the life I needed, one built on authenticity, on passion, on the knowledge that I alone would write my story. I lifted my glass in a silent toast to the missing chair. The one that had revealed exactly where I belonged. And as the waves whispered their applause, I drank deeply of the future I had chosen, unbound and brilliantly my own.